to remember to bring that with me, so they would shut my water off.
Good morning. Good morning.
Showers are going to be needed after this heat.
Okay, let's come to order. This is the Washington Area Highway Transportation Committee meeting. It's Monday, August 27th, 2018. Gina, the roll call, please.
Mark Wessels,
Here.
Ed Fisher,
Here.
Judy Wagner,
Here.
Ray Frankenberg,
Here.
Bobby Evans,
Here.
Bill Stratman,
Here.
Mayor Lucy, Joe Holtmeyer,
Here.
Annie Cassett,
Here.
Elby Eckamp,
Here.
Bill Miller,
Present.
Tim Brinker, Steve Sullentrap,
Here.
John Milders.
Here.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone.
Mr. Chairman.
First item is always the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. I've got a couple of just minor things that I'll tell Gina. A couple of minor changes, Gina. Instead of on number 2, you got Warrenton side of the river. It should be Warren County, and then also down at the bottom of part 2 is also should be Warren County instead of Warrenton.
What'd you say, Bill?
The adjustments, the couple of adjustments on item number 2, instead of Warrenton, that should be Warren County. And on the fourth part of that same paragraph, Warrenton, Warren County.
Okay.
Anyone else have any changes, corrections, suggestions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. So be so enthusiastic here this morning. We got a new bridge opening up here. We got to get excited about it.
Right. Maybe.
All right, number 1, item Amtrak. Mark, take it away.
Yes, I don't really have a report today, but I think John's going to update us on, he's been working with some folks on this blowing the whistle through town, so I'll turn it over to John.
Yes, good morning. Last Wednesday, I met with representatives from the Federal Rail Administration, MoDOT, Union Pacific Railroad, and Amtrak down at our depot. We are in the midst of a 60-day notice of intent. Notice of intent really is just, it identifies all the stakeholders, lets them know that we want to amend our quiet zone. If you recall, the current quiet zone exists from Lafayette down to Kingsland. And with the implementation of positive train control, the depot is actually considered a pedestrian crossing that it was inadvertently left out of the original quiet zone. And the train whistling that you're hearing is the PTC that's being implemented on locomotives throughout the nation. It's essentially an electronic signaling, signalization program within the trains. It takes away the human component that backs it up with an electronic component. So, in order to incorporate the depot into that quiet zone, we have to go through this notice of intent to amend it, to include it into it, and then the meeting on Wednesday was to identify any upgrades that would be necessary for the individual parties to agree to include it in the quiet zone. Luckily, the only 2 items that came out of that was some additional signage, which would be no train horn signs posted on the gates themselves. It's number 1. And number 2 is change out the latching mechanism on the gates. Right now, it's only a one-way latch, so if you're actually inside the tracks, you have to reach over the gate to open it. So we're just going to have to get a new latching mechanism to make it a 2-way latch. Pretty straightforward. Getting some numbers right now and getting Union Pacific to agree to that latching mechanism. Once that happens, and the 60-day comment period, and assuming there are no more comments, then it takes approximately 6 to 8 weeks for Union Pacific to change it within all the 6,000 other locomotives. So it takes a month. They have to physically, I think, go into the locomotives, make sure that our depot does not whistle. So it's moving along pretty quickly, actually. And hopefully we'll have some good
It's on the right track.
good response here towards fall, wintertime. So.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you, John. Any questions, comments?
I do have one question on that. I'm sorry, Judy, but you said we're in the middle of a public comment period. Are you wanting the public to comment, or?
No, it's actually an NOI. It's a period for the for Union Pacific, Amtrak, MoDOT, and the Federal Rail. We send out the intent to them, and then they comment back to us as far as what other improvements they need. So it's
Mostly agency comment.
not really a public comment, it's more of the entities that run on the rails themselves. So I think I get plenty of public comment. So,
Over and over and over.
You know, if you look at the way those things are set up down there at the train station, they put some concrete pads in between the tracks so people could walk across in case the Amtrak was on the outer train, so they didn't have to go over the top. So they put those concrete pads, and that, on that PTC, that apparently triggers that as a crossing.
that's what it is.
You know, just like it would be a vehicle or something. Well, so it's, in a way, I'm amazed at how sensitive they really are, because it's not a real big.
This is very unique, is what Federal Rail is telling us. I mean, this is pretty high up within the Federal Rail organization, so it's a very unique situation.
Oh, very good. Wow. Anything else?
Good job.
You betcha. Thanks, yeah. Number 2, Highway 47 Missouri River Bridge.
Woohoo. We're moving along. As you probably heard, we're scheduled for a ribbon cutting ceremony December 1st. It's a Saturday afternoon. There's a couple planning committees going on and subcommittees going on for the actual event. So look forward to that. If you have any ideas or anything you'd like to see, let the mayor or myself know. But the ceremony on the bridge will be at 3 o'clock. I know there's going to be a walk run earlier in the morning, and then potentially some events down on the riverfront afterwards. So contractor is working. We've still got 5 deck pours, as you see. We're kind of loading the bridge girders at different locations, but we have 5 deck pours left. The work on the south side of the river along 47 on the southbound lanes is underway. Got a lot of pipe work, inlets, sidewalks, utility work, and so forth going on right there. So that's getting really tight and congested. This afternoon at 1 o'clock, we're having a kind of an ADA experience out there with the hospital folks and Jonna and some other contractors that are actually going to be pouring the sidewalks so that the cement masons actually get to ride in the wheelchair and feel what it's like and how important their job is to make it accessible for those of us, or those people who are constrained to the wheelchair. So exciting times on the bridge. We're moving forward. Still probably one of our biggest hurdles will be our lighting. So we're still working on that, getting through all those, but other than that,
Will the governor be invited?
Mayor, did we invite the governor?
I believe we did.
I believe we did.
In fact, I think we've
Yes.
already put everything on, I think you all sent out a save the date to all of our elected officials? Or
Yes,
there
we
was
did. I'm
something
sorry. That went out last week.
Last week that
Yeah.
went out, so all of our elected officials
Including the
received that.
U.S. senators?
Yes, including.
Yes.
And in fact, I saw Jennifer, was it Hoskins?
Yeah.
On Friday, and she was aware that that letter had gone out, so she's with Senator Blunt, so.
How about some of the previous commissioners who were involved that came to our meeting with the pennies and whatever?
Yeah, you know, I think that
number
we
of them
probably
would
need to
be
work on that,
interested if we-
you know.
if
I know I saw Dwayne Mickey a few
Yeah,
months ago,
yeah.
and I was telling him about it, and he'd like to be there, so I'd like to add
Yeah.
him to the list. But we can go back through previous commissioners like Larry, is it Larry Miller?
Miller, what was his first name?
And the guy from the Ford dealership.
Mm-hmm.
Is he still?
Kehoe.
Kehoe.
Kehoe, the lieutenant governor now.
Right.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we'll go back through that list.
Yeah, it's not Larry
So-
though, it's different. No.
It's,
No, it's, yeah,
Steve-
Stephen, I'm
Stephen?
sorry.
Steve Miller.
Stephen.
Yeah,
Who's Larry Miller?
I don't know.
They still on schedule, though?
Yes.
But the lighting might
The
be a
lighting,
problem.
yeah. The actual contract states by December 3rd, traffic has to be on the new structure. That's the only specified language. So technically, the lights don't have to work, anything doesn't have to be done, just traffic has to be on the new bridge. And that's kind of the anniversary date of when we put the temporary shoring there on Pier 9, if you remember, August 8th of, what year was that, Bob? It was really, really hot. 07. And we added that 10 to 12-year fix with the temporary shoring that we left in place on the old bridge. So our intent was to make sure that in that 10 to 12-year period that we had traffic off of that structure. And
Oh, so that's what's driving. Oh,
yes,
okay.
that's why we had that specified in the contract, to have traffic off of it. And even though it was a lot of other work that could still be done, we wanted traffic off of the old temporary shoring pier that we put in there in '07. My God, that's been a long time, Bob.
Judy, you said there's 5,
Yes, we just had them, and we're fine.
you said there's 5 pours left. How many total pours did it take?
Oh, goodness. Kevin, do you know?
How many total pours were there?
Deck pours.
Well, there's 7 total deck. They might actually have 6 left. They've done.
No, we got 5 left, because we just did it Thursday.
All right, yeah. So they're looking
Yeah.
at one a week, talking to things.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So how many were there total? 7?
No, why, there's more than 7.
7 altogether.
7?
On the deck.
Well, we had the 2 on the north end done already, and then we just did one. That's 3. And we got 5 left. I think there was 8, 9, 7. Kevin knows. I'm not going to doubt it.
All right, well, that's just a little fun fact.
Yes.
I was,
He would know the truth.
I'd be like,
But I know there's
25.
5 left.
Yeah, so those
because,
are big pours if it only takes 7.
Yeah, it only takes,
The steel
And
span.
then 3 or 4 on the concrete spans. This concrete span on the south side's been done, but there's 7.
Yeah, that's what I'm
7
saying.
we're working on currently. They got 2 done, so we have 5.
Okay.
But there's more, because I think there was 12.
There was 4 and 7.
Thank you. I knew there was 4, because I'm like, this isn't working out. Right. But the recent on the steel span, there's 7 total to deflect them all differently.
yeah, I find that interesting.
Yeah.
On the north side, some of that railing is up and it really looks nice.
Really does.
Yes.
I
It
agree
does, doesn't it? Yeah, I saw that.
with you. Matches.
The color's good.
I think the color, I'm so glad we reevaluated the color.
Yeah.
Judy, I'm sure that Warren County is included in the celebration, correct?
No, he hasn't been to any of the meetings, have you?
Good one.
He has actually been at the meetings, the planning meetings. So, yes, they are all included. We're trying not to leave anyone out. But if you know of anybody we're leaving out, please help and tell us. As you know, we received $10 million of Tiger Grant. So that's a federal level. So all our U.S. senators and U.S. congressmen have been invited. And whether or not, when we just talked to our local FHWA rep, whether the Secretary of Transportation wants to come or not, that could still
Get your airport.
still be something, because it has the Tiger money in it, so we don't know. And then if the secretary comes, it's the cabinet of the president, which we're all kind of hoping, because then we lose control of the whole event if that kind of position attends the event.
President Trump.
Yes, I wasn't going to say that word. I know Chief would be having a fit if he comes because of
Well, it just kind of
security.
changes the whole security thing, so,
Yeah.
anyway.
Eric, have you determined who'll be the first car to drive over the bridge?
We are working on that right now, though. Apparently, the third car, which was the first Ford in this city, first Ford, third Ford, okay, there you are. Okay,
There
he
you
was
go.
the
That's-
first
Ford
Ford
in the city.
in the city, but he was the third car across the bridge originally. Thank you. Get that mixed up.
Eads took an elephant first.
And he's, I really want an elephant. I really do want an elephant if anybody. But anyway, going back to that, I think he's going to get the first car unless something in the planning committee changes it. But I think that's pretty nostalgic. And then someone else, I think, the Historical Society was looking at the fire truck. That might have been around the same era.
That's right.
So we were talking about maybe allowing that to go across too. But then the actual first public car will be sometime that Monday night at anywhere from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. when the traffic actually gets put on it. So if you want to sit out there so you could be the actual first public car, but we are not going to advertise what time that's going to happen, because we really don't know, because everything is going to be concrete. There's not asphalt tie-ins, it's all going to be concrete, so it's going to be the matter of when the stripers get through and get done and the channelizers and barrier wall gets moved. So who's ever up in the middle of the night that wants to be the first public car, you know, but I'm not gonna stand out there and cut another ribbon. So it'll all be just ceremonial first cars, and then I don't know how that'll happen. I just hope there's not a big ruckus to be the first public car, because our workers will be out there. And of course, Alberisi and the MoDOT inspectors that are on the job, of course, will be driving back and forth, just to check smoothness and other things, you know, once the deck is complete.
Judy,
So,
I'm
does
sure
that
the,
answer your question?
So there'll be lots of first cars.
Yeah.
I'm sure the same for pedestrians, bicycles, they want
Yes,
first space.
yes, they can wait. Well, actually, the day of the ceremony, you'll be allowed to join the YMCA's event. I don't know yet if it's a 5K or what it's gonna be yet, but as we know, it's 1 mile from the south end of the bridge across and back. So it's gonna have to be more than a 1 mile race. But the event will begin and end at another off-site location, and this will just be part of the trail. I'm sorry, Kevin.
Just remember, it's all uphill coming back.
Up and down. But the other thing is important to note is the trails will not be open under the Warren County side or the Washington side until the old bridge is down, because that's the finished loop of the trail on both sides. So the trail will not be open. It'll remain closed until most likely July of 19, when everything is finished and the paving gets done underneath, so. Yes, exciting times. It's been
Really
10
gonna
years,
happen.
Bob, that's scary. You did say it was gonna take us 10 years. It's taken us a few more, but
Any chance of a military flyover?
if you've got connections, Bill, we'll like watch it. That would be
Well,
cool.
That's a
good one.
You know, at one time, they used the bridge, test pilots did, as kind of a target.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Boeing still does.
Target? We don't want that. No.
Oh, they really did. Some years ago,
Oh, that's kind of cool.
got to be a little bit of a problem. And,
We get told every week from an employee at Boeing, they still use it for targeting.
Do they?
Yeah, a lot of infrastructure pieces across.
Yeah.
When you mean targeting, you mean just
One of their.
Side in, laser in,
side in, okay.
reflectivity, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, who do you contact about a flyover? I wouldn't,
Air-to-air missiles.
Do you have any contacts over there at the airport?
I was just trying to think who that would be. I can try and figure that out.
There's a
Older.
gentleman from, I'm sorry.
I don't know that he's still flying for him, is he? For the military.
He'd go steal one and do it anyway.
I know,
That may be why
I
he's not flying for him anymore.
Well, the U.S. senators might be able to help us get a flyover.
yeah.
Fair.
What did
I know Zach Zerowesti from New Haven is actually a pilot. He did the touch and goes that you would always hear. I mean, he's local from New Haven. I mean, we could
Yeah.
maybe get in contact with him.
Yeah, we're doing some things with him right now. So
Yeah,
That's
there you
who
go.
I'm gonna start with.
That'd be cool.
Party planning.
Partied.
So it's a work in progress, but it'll be good.
I think so.
It'll be good.
Yes. So if they have any questions or comments or want to make sure that something is not left out of this event, please let me know. The sooner the better, because we don't want to forget anyone or anything. And then the Highway Commission, it's just kind of roll into the next thing. The Highway Commission is meeting here the following Wednesday for their monthly meeting. And so we're working on something, maybe those children that bought the wheelbarrow pennies in, maybe bring them back with a thank you card. I don't know. They're all in college. No, they're not.
They're in high school.
They are in high school? Oh, boy.
They are in high school. Because I looked at the photo the other day, and you know, like, the Joseph and Lousy, Joseph, the twins were there on the photo. They're in high school now, and Caitlin Patke
Oh, boy.
was one of them, and she's a freshman this
They can bring
year.
their kids.
They
So
can
they're all in high school. So it took us a while to get this bridge done.
Yes, okay.
Bring their
But Pam Harlan, the secretary for the commission, said that they could add something to it. So if
Okay, good.
we want to work on that we could add that to the agenda and kind of relive that moment from years ago. So, but that will be on the Wednesday, December 5th, I believe, is the date of the commission meeting here.
I just hear what I thought I heard.
Time capsules?
They can bring their kids.
Capsules. So we are going to do the plaque. Actually, I did just, who's working on the plaque? Mayor? I did just get the specifications for the plaque that they just put on Stan's Band
Oh,
and on the
okay.
Boone Bridge, so I'll send that over to you.
Okay, good.
To get that. And then Eric and I were discussing dignitary giveaways, and at the Herman Bridge, they had wine glasses and had wine. I know the Warrenton interchange that just opened up last week, they had plastic wine glasses with sparkling bubbles. So, but we're kind of trying to lean away from any kind of alcohol, so.
So you're giving gifts, you give gifts to the.
Just a dignitary
the
gift or
dignitary?
some kind
Oh,
of
okay.
momentum. Maybe the public giveaway could be a part of a ribbon, a specially designed ribbon for the bridge or something that we could look at. But if anybody has any ideas, please let us know. Somebody just told me the corn cob pipe, but I like the Beerstein thing because you're Germantown, but.
But do we want to stay away from alcohol?
Yeah.
Alcohol and smoking?
And smoking. What does that say about this town? No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, if you come up with something that's kind of cool. I know the day the bridge was free, they gave away ashtrays in 1956. I saw that on, I grew
I
up
don't
in
think that's
Washington.
a thing to do today, ashtrays.
Yeah.
People still kept them.
But that was the day of the free bridge, so when they had a ceremony, I guess, for that in the 50s, when the commission took over from the toll authority, so. But anyway.
I'm doing the Warren account side.
The other creative thing that came out of our couple first kickoff meeting was potentially putting up a tent, just an awning, and have some of the historical stuff out there from the first bridge opening. Newspaper articles. What else? We had the old plaque that came off of this bridge, but have a couple things out on display, just so as people walk in, they can kind of get an idea of where this went, where it's come from, before there was even a crossing here in Washington. So either side of the bridge, if Augusta or Dutzow or anybody has anything that they think is kind of significant and cool that people might want to see. I think our downtown no, not Bridget, who's the gentleman from the store?
Mark Houseman.
Mark, I think he's going to be working on that, so.
Yeah, he's got some good,
He's got some stuff, okay.
the old booth picture.
The booth, okay, yeah. And again, it's December 1st, so we're hoping it's not an ice storm or anything, but we'll pray for a nice warm day.
Do you have another date in mind if you can't hold it?
No, because what I think we're doing, kind of like Stanspan was like minus something wind chills. It's going to be, if it's too icy to walk across the bridge, then it's canceled. But otherwise, I don't think we'll cancel or change
Because
it.
they want the traffic on there on Mondays.
We have to have the traffic on there Monday, yeah.
All right, well, we'll pray for good weather.
Yeah.
Probably 90.
Call the sisters.
Yeah, the way the weather's been so weird, it'll be probably hot.
Yeah.
Good conversation. It's a long time coming, isn't it?
Yes. It's getting exciting.
Any other comments, questions? Hearing none. Highway 47 Corridor Committee? John?
I have no specific update other than I think MoDOT is getting a briefing from the consultant.
Oh,
at
we
your
had
headquarters.
that last.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that last week?
Yes,
I
the
apologize.
That's okay. Lockmuller came into St. Louis District Office on Thursday afternoon and presented to our leadership and St. Louis planners kind of the recommendations that came out of the study. So all good feedback. They did a great job on the study. Came up with a lot of good solutions, both very economical, things that maybe we can fund in the next couple of years, hopefully, through our funding sources. And then, of course, they looked at a lot of alternatives there in Union to realign 47s together. And those will all be out for public comment September
Yeah, I don't know that-
13th. I think
There
it's
you
a
go.
Wednesday.
I know it's
September 12th? No. Okay. When is that, John? Tim, do you know?
September
Look at my handy dandy calendar.
It might be.
I believe it was the 13th. I think it was a Thursday, was it not?
Was it a Thursday? That could be what?
That's what I thought.
Okay. Yeah, it is the 13th. It just happens to be a Thursday, September
It is indeed
13th, 4 o'clock to 7 at the Franklin County Chambers. And then that'll kind of let us get feedback from everybody who commented early on in the study, so. I think it's, overall, I think it was a very, very well done, so.
Yeah, they did a great job, and I think initially they came up on that alignment with 6 or 7 alternatives, and then narrowed it down to like 3. Due to various reasons, cost, practicality, things like that. So,
And they were all in the 65 to $68 million range.
yeah.
Well, that's quite expensive. But there were a lot of more economical improvements along the corridor that hopefully can help operationally keep traffic flowing and reduce crashes.
So when MoDOT sees something like that with that price tag, is that, other than panic, other than sheer panic, but I mean, does that,
Well, I mean, it's in line with what's on the long-range plan because we were talking about 80 million to widen 47.
right?
So, I mean, it's pretty in line with what we thought. But it will definitely be an illustrative, major project. It's nothing that can be funded unless there's another funding source. Right now, all our money is extra, expansion money is going to 270 North, as we've talked about. That's a $500 million job, but it'll help the freight movement through St. Louis. Illinois just announced Chain of Roxbridge is getting redone in a few years. So that'll make that loop for the freight movement,
Freight going.
which is definitely an economical impact to our entire region. So we want to make sure that doesn't fall apart.
Judy, dare we, in terms of funding sources, dare we start treading on the November initiative or Prop D?
Proposition D, yay. Well, the campaign is officially out there, safermo.com, if you want to go out and look at it. We are now ranked the 49th lowest in revenue for transportation on our fuel tax. 2 of the other states just recently passed. So we're almost, I think we're behind Alaska, is the only one behind us, which is awful.
No doubt.
So we need to do something to catch us back up. And, you know, the proposition is going to be 2.5 cents a year for 4 years, so it's a 10-cent increase. And what, you know, people have studied this say that just gets us back to where we should be. Nothing additional, really. That's just the revenue we need to take care of our system from having no increase since '96 when the last 2 cents came into play from the 6 cents ballot issue in '92. So this gets us back up there. But it does help our cities and counties a lot. The projects that, you know, John and the county apply for, it'll give $123 million statewide to our cities and the same for our counties. So it's a lot of extra revenue that could be really put to good use.
So I'm going to be attending to a meeting tomorrow, like a St. Louis Regional Proposition D meeting
Yep.
in St. Louis. Are there going to be speakers that are going to be available to?
Yes.
Like,
The
present
actual-
here, or how, you know, what's their game plan? I know we can find that out tomorrow, but what's their game plan on?
Outreach.
Outreach.
Yes, safermo.org. I think our CGA is putting that event on tomorrow, but basically, they're willing to come out and speak to any group that wants to listen, explain what the ballot's about, how you can contribute to the campaign, all those good things. But tomorrow, the regional leaders, this will be the kickoff for the St. Louis region. So it's very important, I think, that we get people out this way to do it. We kind of have to stay hands-off. I won't be at that event tomorrow. I think just Patrick and Ed are going.
Judy, is MoDOT looking at Highway 47 as a connection between I-70 and I-44, taking some of the congestion off of 270?
You know, it's interesting because we're in 2 different RPC and an MPO. But we, as the local area engineers and districts, know that that does happen. But as far as in our long-range plan is the St. Louis Metro, and then you've got the Boone Slick RPC with their long-range plan. So when those planners talk and communicate, they obviously know that it does take away from the 270, 141 outer belt congestion that we have.
Has any study been made as the amount of traffic could be diverted from 270 by 147?
I don't know. I doubt it. We don't have the personnel to do studies. We're barely getting through our 70 Pell we're doing with the consultant in the St. Louis region, and I'm sure Eric's in the same boat we are as far as available resources.
You know, that idea is not, it's been around 20 or 30 years.
The outer belts, and it's definitely not unrealistic. To me, it's very practical, but I think as we're doing it now, we're doing piece by piece. You know, I know they just did the big hill, but getting smaller improvements, that's probably the way we're gonna go unless we get a major influx of funding to where we can build those corridors. Just getting the 141 belt around to St. Charles County, you know, over to out to Earth City, thank you. Maryland Heights is what I was trying to say. But getting that loop has helped, I think, 270 tremendously as well.
Judy, is there a comparable thought about, I think about 44, then to 55, and you got 141. Is there anything farther out that they consider looking at in that same light?
Route A in
Route A.
Festus was the outer belt through Jefferson County, because we obviously have W 109, that loop. But when Jefferson County halted the W portion of that study, because you know we built 55 at M and then new M all the way over to 21. That's all 4-lane limited access highway. But then you get on to which is a 2-lane, nicer than it used to be, 4-foot shoulders, but it still has entrances and blind hills.
Right.
And then you get on W, and I just finished that job, 2 years ago? And it's only got 2 to 3 foot shoulders and carries 11,000 cars a day. So it's
Similar problem.
really, yes, it's, and that road goes underwater at WFF, just outside of Eureka. And then you get into St. Louis County, and then you see what 109 in Eureka does at 44.
Yeah.
It's a highly congested, the interchange itself is functionally not something that we would build today for optimizing traffic flow. So there'd be a lot of work, and then the other leg of it goes through Wildwood. So, all the way over to 100 through there. So I don't know, as far as trying to improve, I'd say our next priority would be W to 30, or 109 to 30 in that stretch. But again, as far as when you consider what an outer loop is, you want a limited access highway that you can take high speed, lots of high volume trucks. So, when you look at the outer belt, what do you want? Do you want an interstate, an expressway? What type of arterial are you talking about that would deter traffic, lower graded hills, wider shoulders, wider lanes, multiple lanes, potentially climbing lanes, those kind of things will really keep freight moving on the outskirts of a city. But I've been seeing freight moving through county roads in Jefferson County, cutting from 30 on county roads, and they're having a significant problem over there, trying to keep those trucks off of those, because it's once every 5 or 6 months, there's a tractor trailer overturned. And that's what I used to get from Franklin to Jefferson County, and so I've had to turn around a number of times now where the trucks are trying to use them as an interstate. They're trying to still go 45 or 50, and there's a 15-mile-an-hour curve. And I'm like, you can't drive this but the truckers don't, want to slow down. They want to get there and
Well, they're
get
not
there
used to
fast.
it either.
They're used to a super elevation around a curve. Well, the county roads just don't have that kind of design. Back, they were mostly gravel, and then they just paved them.
Judy, the Freightways Initiative takes the improvements on Highway 70 to Warrenton. That's what they always use. They use the town of Warrenton, which is where Highway 47,
Yep.
coming south. Have you any idea I know you don't, but there's going to be a change in traffic, in the volumes and the kind of traffic when this new bridge is opened and all the restrictions are taken off of it. What do you see, or
I see
Any
it's
idea?
gonna let the trucks keep coming, and then we're gonna just have to catch up and find out where they're having the difficulties. I don't see another way. I just really, this 47 section right through here, as you guys know, they're cutting A to BB to 50 to head out towards the west.
That's right.
BB falls apart. I mean, as soon as we overlaid, it's falling apart. I added 2-foot shoulders to it, 3 years ago, just to give the trucks a little bit extra width because they don't slow down on the curves. They drop off their back wheels. We got another rollover. So, but, you know, trying to get the roads that they're using because it shows on their Google Maps that's the shortest path. You know, I mean, they've been doing it, I don't know, as long as I've been over the area in '02, cutting 50 to BB to A, and then we had all those trucks on A turning over. So, I mean, the only thing I could do on those type of minor roads right now are these 2-foot shouldering jobs, which both of those now we've been able to fund and put rumble strips to help them slow down. But again, they're highly residential areas that are not conducive to that large amount of trucks that are using it. So, and you know yourself, once this is gone, they're gonna continue to, especially if there's any congestion on 70, from there over, they're gonna come down and cut across 50 to go across the state. And that's the path they're gonna take.
The restrictions that are currently on the old bridge, they're not going to carry over to the new ones, obviously, but what are they, other than load capacity and width, I guess?
Width and height.
Width,
Height, and load, and weight. Right now, that's what we have on that bridge.
So that's going to go away.
That's completely.
All that goes away. There will be no height,
No,
no
nothing.
width. no-
You could have I don't know if you've been seeing the big poles where they're putting the wind towers up.
Yeah.
They've been bringing those in 3 or 5 piece sections, and they're anywhere from 110 to 120 something foot. And then depending on what they're the base or the middle piece or the top piece, how big they are. So they're over width and over length. So you'll start seeing them being rerouted as well
What a thing to look at.
when the restriction is gone. Yeah. I know I just saw a clipping this weekend, excuse me, that they made a wrong turn out in, I think it was in Jeff City somewhere, and that big tower piece made the wrong turn, and they couldn't get him turned around on it was out in Jeff City. So they had, all our maintenance crews came in and put rock and made them almost a whole new roadbed to get them turned around because there was no way to get him off the interchange once he made that wrong turn.
Well, they were on Highway 100. I seen them just last week.
Yeah.
They're long.
They're
I don't
very
know how
long.
long they are, but they're at least,
Well, they're anywhere
traffic
from,
really-
I've seen them from 90 feet, like, just because I get a copied on the permits. I've seen them anywhere from 90, I think the 113, I saw one for 116. That's just ridiculous. I mean, that's as long as a building, and you're trying to get it
Are
down.
those the
the road.
blades?
No, these are the towers.
The towers.
circulars.
And as the bases are, I want to say 16 feet. I think they're
Yeah.
16 or 16.6, and then as you go up, they get narrower. But those base pieces are what's the,
So you got a 12-foot road with a 16-foot.
well, I get them, they come across Route 30, and we have 11-foot lanes. So when they're coming at you and I mean, I go that route a lot, so I see them. They're taking up their lane and half of my lane. So literally, if you're coming at you, you have to go off the shoulder to let them come at us. And those are the roads they're taking.
Do they not have to get a permit?
Yeah, they get
Oh, yeah,
permits
they
to
get
do that.
permits.
They have to have extra axles or whatever. to
Yep,
let
all
that weigh
kinds,
down.
yeah.
But doesn't the permitting process sometimes send you
Yep.
on those types of roads? Because
And-
that way you stay off the,
Well, there's normally restrictions on the other roads, because like
Right.
those, they can't get on 44 because we have a low clearance
Uh-huh.
on 44. So they have to get them off on 30 and come around. And then they have hours of days that they can and can't
Right.
travel. But that all goes through MoDOT and our permit process in Jeff City. But that's the good thing is, because then any work zones that we have that narrow the lanes down, weight restrictions on new, like just they did an inspection and now there's a weight limit on a bridge on route whatever, BB, then they can restrict those and know who's had permits on that road and make sure they don't use those roads. And then, like we said, we get driver error, that just happened last week in Jeff City, and I had the same thing on our 5567 closure in the first week of August. We had it closed, we knew we had it restricted down to 9.5-foot lanes with barrier wall. And sure enough, the truck driver the guide truck, I think is who made the mistake. The first night, Friday night, rush hour traffic, they didn't read and they didn't get off where they were supposed to. And now I have traffic stacked for miles and miles and miles at 6 p.m. And the only way the troopers could get them was to back them all the way up. And So I mean, you know, and all those people got delayed now because this guy didn't read his route correctly. But that's, you know, it's specific as to which turns they're supposed to make and which routes they go on. Well,
Follow the directions, I guess.
follow the directions. But sometimes I always think those lead cars aren't really doing anything, but they do follow the permit. Well, they're supposed to follow the permit and make sure there's nothing abnormal that wasn't on their itinerary.
You sure it was a guy driver?
I'm sorry, did I say guide? I'm saying guide. Where's Monty? Monty, I'm saying guide. Guide. Oh, it's definitely a male. I'm just kidding. No, guide. I would never specify. I'm outnumbered in this room, aren't we, Gina? We're outnumbered quite a bit in this room. Mayor.
You know, we're talking about the Highway 47 corridor. Hubie, this is a good place for you guys to step in, you and Eric, just to tell us where we're at with that initiative to do some improvements on the north side of the River Bridge.
You want to talk about your part? Judy, as I listened to the conversation, one of the problems we have with 47 is when they get to Warrenton, there's a weight scale at Forestell. If they take 47 and come this way, they miss the weight scale at St. Clair. And so you can run up north Missouri, you can run Iowa, you can come on down through here and miss all the chicken coops. And that gets kind of different. A lot of the accidents that have been in our area is a guy running scale. So I don't know if MoDOT gives that some thought, but
Yes.
something it could be. Just going to address a little bit. Boonslick Regional Planning went out for an as-built grant for the proposed causeway. That was sent off in a timely manner. Won't know anything about it until probably December. So just wanted to put you up to speed that whether we get this grant or don't get this grant, I think we continually have to hammer on trying to get a way or a means to utilize the bridge in all conditions. Some of the things that I'm finding that I'm running into just in conversation is a lot of people think that if we get a causeway, 47 becomes non-existent. So that's an educational end of it, because when they talk about a causeway, they think we're going to go all the way up to Forestell, and that would be wonderful. But I don't think there's anything like that to do that. So that's about where we're at. If there's any questions, be happy to answer them. But all we can do is see where it takes us.
What was the value of that grant?
25 million.
million.
And I think the thought process is it's more like 35 to get across, and that's why I think the proposed is to kind of touch into St. Charles County to get east-west gateway to hook up with us.
Good answer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Herbie.
And as we mentioned before, in our 5-year step in scoping, we do have 47 identified as trying to address some of the flooding issues. There's about 3 or 4 spots that it floods across there, so that's what's in our 5-year step.
So really, has been no change in the elevation of the road that will affect the lack of flooding, or it will flood, just like it did before.
Correct.
The new bridge does nothing to solve that situation.
Correct. Yep.
But these little segments will get it out of the 50-year or 100 years, what are we?
Well, I'm not sure how many years it is, but it seems like if you could get it to that elevation, it would stay open more frequently. It's been a couple years, I think, since the last flood. So it's something we'll take a look at.
The north end of the bridge, Judy, only goes to 10-year. Where we touch back to 47.
That's right, 10 years.
Right, 10 years.
That's about a 10-year flood. It was inches of going over 47.
Yep.
So the new bridge is at 10
The
years?
approach at Augusta Bottom, the actual 47.
Water will still flow over where it flowed over in May of 2006.
So that's, nothing's different there, okay.
The bridge will stay high and dry, knock on wood.
You hope.
Well, that's what I
Thanks for
thought.
Danny.
And while I'm up here, the 2 bridges on 94 that we're replacing will be open this Friday. They're west of Trelor, so just kind of for your information.
And the weight limits and whatever have been brought up to speed, they'll be
Yep, no,
increased?
yep, no limits on the bridges. Yep.
So you got no limits on bridges from,
We still have one
All
bridge,
those trucks are coming this way, huh?
we still have one.
No, they're gonna stay
I'm
on
just saying.
94, stay over there now, through tree lore.
We still have one bridge in between Treelore and Marthasville that is a one-lane bridge that has some restrictions on it.
Oh.
Once that gets replaced in the future, then there wouldn't be any restrictions on 94.
very good.
Is that Coke Bridge or which one?
Yeah, I believe that's it. And then we do have another one, well, we have a couple, but west of there, so I don't remember if there's limitations on those or not.
Well, just whenever we're talking about conversations about the Highway 47 corridor, there is a north side to this thing, and that's the other half of this bridge. I mean, we can have the greatest bridge in the world, but if people want to go north and the river's up, it isn't going to happen. So, anyway. Anything else? Good discussion.
I had an update on 47,
Yeah.
from Washington South to St. Clair. Tuesday night, our rumble strips will be out installing the rumble strips, centerline rumbles from here to Union, and then a Wednesday night, weather pending, it's supposed to rain, but then the striping will be finished. I didn't know if we were still up on 47.
You know, those improvements are helping. I mean, I had doubts about the improvements that were going to be done with this amount of money, this 20-some million dollars or whatever. But I think they are effective as much as you can get out of $22 million.
Right.
Let's put it like that. You know, the signs with the flashing red, I think are great, and fluorescent and rumble strips. It's better, it is a lot better than it was in many cases, the ones I see.
And that's the safety program we talked about a year ago?
The
Yes.
design build, yep.
You bet.
How close are they to being completed?
This November, they have to be finished. They've still got work out on 44 at 50 where we're doing that bridge work right now. So we're trying to coordinate that with that contract right now, in fact. But I think the guard cable up in, is that Warren County, St. Charles County? Is that all in yet?
No, there's, our piece is in Lincoln County, but St. Charles County, they've still got some pieces to put some.
Okay, and that's all part of that design build
On
contract?
61?
61. Yeah, because it was St. Charles and Franklin County for the 21 million.
So I know the Lockmiller, this has gone to East-West Gateway, this whole study has gone there now. So what's the next step, do you
What
see?
study?
The Lockmiller
Lockmiller
47 study.
No, we have not taken it to East-West Gateway yet, but that was one
Oh,
of the
okay.
recommendations that we will probably, after the study is brought to the public,
I got it.
is sit
That's
down
what this is
with
hearing.
East-West Gateway planners, because some of this information that Lockmuller found out about traffic projections were way off, because their projections in East-West Gateway, and don't quote me on this, please, but they were thinking that we'd hit this traffic volume on 47 in like 2040, and we're actually at that volume today. So projecting out, those are the kind of things that we need to make East-West Gateway planners aware of, that potentially the modeling that they're using for their planning is maybe not as accurate. I know St. Charles County has done that numerous times, telling them that they're wrong. But we're going to take a little different approach and just say, this is what we found, and see, because St. Charles County doesn't agree necessarily with the modeling that is done by East-West Gateway either. So, but I think now that we know that it's something different, that somehow we will take that to East-West Gateway.
So what about the opening of the new
glaring
bridge?
evidence that needs to be updated.
Well, what about the new bridge opening? I mean, that has to be brought into the conversation too with 47, wouldn't it?
Right, yes,
Absolutely.
having the new
Going
bridge.
south? Huh?
Absolutely.
It's going to affect the traffic
Right.
numbers.
Right now, I think we'll get the study to the public, get the final edition of the study, and now that Tim is on the board of East-West Gateway, we'll probably have a meeting scheduled sometime in November after the TIP's approved.
That's not to say the subject won't be broached prior to that meeting, however. Saying. But we have to go through the process here, though, to get the finished product complete
Got it.
to present.
Got it. Anything else, Judy, on the corridor? Franklin County Transportation Committee?
No report.
Okay. Eric, I think you're done with yours, Warren County? Airport, Raymond. Or-
Yes. All righty. So we had our last meeting on August 7th, and there are currently no hangars available. We did have one that opened up and filled right back up. We have 18 on the waiting list right now. We're still in the process of repaving the main tarmac out there. We've had some issues, and John, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there were some issues with the paving operations. Approximately 15 panels need to be removed and replaced. The project is significantly over schedule. We are coordinating, I know, with Washington Aviation on this 15-panel replacement to ensure we can still get, or that we can get planes to the actual fuel station. So we're working through that coordination, but there was just some insufficient finishing of some concrete panels, so we did make them remove and replace them. I would say we're still, I mean, we're a month, 6 weeks out still before the project is complete.
All right, and then as always, if anybody's wanting an update on what goes on out at the airport, some of the activities, we did have a helicopter trimming the right-of-way of the railroad. What's that been, about 4 weeks ago now? We did get a few calls over at the airport. I'm sure you guys will hear a little bit about it. It's a pretty unique thing whenever you see a helicopter with a big saw that's about 25 feet long with 10 spinning blades on it, trimming trees along something, so.
Yeah.
So we do have that as part of the presentation of some of the activities that go on out at the airport. So if anybody wants to hear about it at any of their meetings of any kind, whether they're public or private, I'd be happy to come and talk about the airport. We have been talking about the possibility of there either being a bench along the trail on Highway 47 or possibly another route for the trail to get over to the Katy Trail. The only reason we have that on our minutes is because there's a possibility that something will happen on the city's airport property. And we aren't driving that, pushing it, or holding it up as far as that goes. The airport layout plan has been in MoDOT's hands for 6 or 8 months now. We hear that it's going to be finished, that their comments are minor. John, anything to add to that?
No, the last round of comments was a couple weeks ago. CMT, which is our consultant, let me know that they were minor in nature, and they did get those submitted back to MoDOT. Now, I don't know how long that takes, again, for them to review it, but we do anticipate this is the last back and forth of that, so.
So once that is done, the airport is set up if we do get money for some expansions. So the width can be widened to 100 foot wide from 75 feet, and we can add 500 feet to the length. We can add some hangar areas and things like that. If we do get a major employer to the St. Louis region that locates out here on this side due to all of our nice highway improvements that we hope to figure out how to get, there would be an amendment to that plan needed. And we have attached the fuel and hangar summary and the tax summary. If any of you had any questions or wanted discussion on that, I'll try to answer it. Otherwise, that's my report.
One question, the airport right, the airport land that is already owned by the city, is it enough to extend the airport?
We would have to extend the navigation easements. So there's easements that go up into the sky that are above the ground that the planes fly in when they come down to the end of the runway. That for sure would be needed to extend. And at the 500 feet, I'm going to tell you that we will need extra ground if we add the full 500 feet off the end. As far as the hangars, there would be purchase of property because the new hangars are on privately owned property right now, or the proposed hangars are shown on private property, which was higher. So there would be some land purchases needed. And it is possible to use the annual money we get towards some of those purchases. So we're looking at that.
Very good. To go back to Highway 47, Judy, the question about the paving that's being done between Washington and Union, is it down to where it's striping only is what's
Yes.
left? That's the
Rumble strips and
rumble
striping.
strips and, okay.
Striping.
Yeah, what kind of problems did you have other than a couple sections that had, what, improper asphalt?
Yes.
Whatever?
They did not meet the specs
Didn't meet
for
the
the air
specs.
voids, right.
Okay. that's
So
all
those
been
sections have been removed and replaced. The high friction treatment's been added on top of it, and now we're just doing the,
It looks good. I mean, yeah.
Judy, there are still sections in between turn lanes and things like that where that friction has not been put down.
right, because those are the
That's-
gore areas that aren't, the actual high friction surface treatment is very expensive. We pay per square foot. So we're only putting it in the lanes where we need it.
That's why, okay.
Yeah, so you'll see there'll be gaps where you don't need the high friction treatment, stopping areas, hills, curves, those kind of things is where it is. But since it's so expensive, that's why it's not continuous over everything.
Okay.
You'll see the double yellow arrow, you know, the big areas that you don't need it. That's why it's not everywhere.
Team track, John, anything?
No report.
Nothing?
Sorry, I don't.
East-West Parkway?
No report.
No changes? Public transportation? I don't know whether this is a good place. Judy, just as a comment, you know, the highway, Boss Spring Drive and 100, that stoplight that you've got there? Why couldn't we start working on making that permanent?
There's a good question.
I mean,
I can give an
Because it's
update.
not warranted.
Oh, it's not warranted yet,
Yes, it's not warranted.
even with the new industry?
Once Bluff Road is back open, we could potentially run traffic warrants out there to see if it's warranted. But the last time I ran warrants, it was far from,
I think what Bill's kind of hinting at is I mean, there is, with the sale of that area to Melton Machine.
oh, on that side.
We will be working with MoDOT, because I do believe a
I'm
traffic
sorry,
study
yeah,
would be necessary.
yes.
So, you know, nothing right now, as it currently stands, would warrant a signal other than the construction going on. But I think as
Yeah.
Melton's plans kind of come together, I know we'll be in contact.
Yes.
quite
I know it's a
Sorry, I
long,
didn't know.
drawn-out process, it seems like, to get a signal, but you've got a temporary signal sitting there with all the wiring and stuff to it.
It's a lot.
It's temporary in nature, for sure. So it's definitely not a permanent, it's not set up for permanent signalization. It is definitely temporary, it would be removed. The current signal would be removed, and if warranted, replaced with a permanent.
But we are
solution.
working with that developer.
Yeah.
I wasn't putting all that together, but yeah.
Got it, okay. Public transportation, hearing none. Other business, anybody else?
This East-West Gateway is having their TIP open house on Monday, September 17th, 4:30 to 6:30 at Pacific City Hall.
Oh,
And any local sponsors of projects will be there along with our projects.
just change locations from Union to Pacific, is that?
They've been in Pacific a couple years.
Couple of times?
It's farther for them to drive to Union.
Yeah.
Of course, they,
They like Pacific. Makes
Same
sense.
mileage.
yeah.
I have here. And Tim, I got a question for you. Bi-state development, give us an update on where we are with the county. Are we part of it, not part of it?
We are on the Missouri side. I don't know where the Illinois legislature has put into place their approval, if you will.
So what does that include? What do we get when we get,
Well, it gives us, A, the opportunity, A, of belonging, B, the opportunity to leverage a board placement on said bi-state board. That will in turn really allow for some opportunity in terms of, you know, we have public transportation on our agenda every month here. And
yes,
we really don't get a lot of fodder on it. However, being a member of bi-state will help enhance perhaps the opportunity to capitalize on some public transportation efforts without cost to our region is the objective. Any additional costs, I should say, because it's already tax funded. You know, belonging should not cost us. We should reap benefits of the existence.
good. I mean, yeah. I don't understand what.
I don't know what answer you were looking for, but that's what I'm going to tell you. That's fine.
Well, I guess, is it supposed to be common knowledge that we're part of it or not?
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I thought the paper did a good job of putting it out there that we were, yeah.
Okay, guess I missed it.
You missed that one?
Good deflection there. I have one question. A couple months ago, we talked about a potential port in Jefferson County on the Mississippi River. I haven't heard anything more about it. Is anything happening on that, or?
There is a,
There's a Freightway meeting this coming Thursday, which I will be attending. And this will be the first meeting since that announcement.
Oh, okay.
And meeting, so.
Good, I was just hoping we were
The,
tracking it.
Yes, there will be, the guest speaker will be the same one that did the speaking for the full group. Yes, so he'll be, yeah, Black Mines person. I'm not sure what his name is, but
I could never remember his
I
first
can't
name.
either, but, yes.
But they've got the memorandum of understanding
Yeah.
signed with Black Mines down in Louisiana, so.
This is a meeting to bring everybody up to date, particularly with the monies that they've got for the bridge improvements, and some other improvements. Illinois is putting up a bunch of money for the 270, isn't it? Is it for 70 or 270?
270.
270. And then Railway Bridge is being now officially
Merchants,
Merchants Bridge, right. That will
Downtown.
be replaced.
that's what I understand,
What I understand.
yes. They got a lot of private donations.
Yeah, there's private money flowing into the Freightways initiative. So,
The Terminal Railroad Association is taking the lead on that.
yeah. And they're gonna, one of the items they're gonna talk about is the more development of the container on barge. That's what's gonna be the emphasis of this one coming up on Thursday. That's where you'd come up into the Missouri River at some point.
And I wonder, and I'm not invited to that meeting, but I wonder if the company who is also working with Black Mines, designing those barges, will be there, because it's amazing what they're doing with the barges now with the smaller drafts, so they can go up in these smaller tributaries.
Wakeless speeds and things like
Yeah.
that.
that's
Yes.
what's pretty fascinating.
With the-
But they built the demo, to scale model over in, where did they,
Germany? No?
not Germany. Anyway, somewhere right in that area.
French?
But they built it, and I guess they're getting ready to test it now.
Bring it across the pond.
Yeah.
See how she does.
They
He does.
tested it over there?
They're gonna test it over there. It's actual to scale of the exact same thing. But, yeah, because I think it's 4 to 10 tall. Like, so depending on what river they start, wherever they start unloading to get it down to a certain size, they can piece it and take it apart and then run it up like the Missouri River.
That's what's good about our bridge being a little
Iowa.
higher.
Yes. It'll get under there now.
Have to lower the river level to get it under it. Yeah.
The trucks won't be able to go north, but
But I mean, if you think about it, a barge has been a barge for as long as I can remember. They were steel, they had the 8-foot drafts, they had the same
Yeah.
configuration. So this was the first time I had seen, and it probably is out there, but this is the first time I saw a presentation on some kind of streamlining or modernizing that type of
That's what happens when
transportation.
the economy starts kicking a bit.
Kicking in, yeah,
Panama Canal widened. That's what started.
yeah. My dad just booked a 2-week cruise to go through the Panama. February's coming. I'm gonna fit in a suitcase.
Okay, any other business, anyone? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to.
We're here.
Have a motion.
Thank you all.
Thank you all very much.
Time soon gonna happen.
It depends on if they get money.
Hi, Bill. I'm good, how are you?
Not-
How are you, LB? I'm good, I'm good,
Not
thanks.
the funding.
I think I'll be pretty old.
I think Eric's projects to raise section is probably the best thing we
Yeah, he was the first one.
How's that?